Hey folks, and welcome to Generation Next. It's launch week. Kind of, I was trying to put like Bake Off vibes into that one. Like, it's bread week. Bake Off, the dream job. And so to celebrate, joining me as per usual, we've got Xbox expert Jordan Ramey.
What's up?
And PlayStation Pro Timur Hussein.
Absolutely spent after having these consoles, lads. Spent.
I'm upset.
Okay.
I think
that
like,
might have to be the last one.
I think
Like the last one.
I get the sentiment because you're also like tired, but it's also just horrible.
Absolutely climaxed from these consoles.
Well, that doesn't even make sense. It's obviously a huge week for us here because consoles are out. Series X, S, and PS5 are all out. Sorry, UK, you'll get it. You'll get PlayStation next week. But also this episode of Generation Next. So Tam, you're gonna tell us your early impressions of Demon's Souls running on PlayStation 5. I'm very excited to hear more. But you may have caught it last week when I said it was gonna be a big episode, because we got an interview with one Big Phil, and that is his official name, Evan. Roll the tape. I've waited my entire life to say roll the tape.
Here on Generation Next, our weekly forward-looking video game and console show, we have two nicknames for you. And we'd like you to pick the official nickname for Generation Next. The first one is Big Phil, which is a great one. I like it a lot. It's based on a very awkward dating moment where a guy comes up and says, "My name is Phil, but my friends call me Big Phil." And we've called you Big Phil since then.
Hi, my name is Phil. Most of my friends call me Big Phil.
And the other one, because of the power of Game Pass and your efforts to get many games on there, is Phil Sponsors. So whenever we have so which one do you like?
I don't like either one. I guess if those two, I'd have to go with Big Phil. But I'd rather people just call me Phil. I'm P3 on Xbox Live. You know, people. But I guess I'm appreciated. I appreciate that I'm being mentioned anyway. So
it's almost weekly, and it's casually like, yeah, Big Phil said on Twitter, and the audience seems to love it, and it's picking up.
We'll go with that.
All right, cool. Official. Big Phil is the official nickname for our show.
Okay, well, I did feel a little bit bad where he said that he didn't like either of them, but he did seem to warm towards Big Phil, so now it's canon.
Yeah, it gets mentioned again in that interview towards the end, and he rolls with it. He smiles. I ask you, Big Phil, is it time? I think he's really, really warming to it. I'm looking forward to when he changes his Xbox Live gamer tag and Twitter to Xbox P3 Big Phil.
He makes it official.
Yeah.
All right, Tam, you covered a lot of ground in this interview, so we're going to go through the big key takeaways in this episode of Generation Next. But how was it for you overall? You've interviewed Phil a few times now. What's he like?
Well, a gentleman never kisses and tells. But, Firstly, like, really, really ironic that the PlayStation expert on this show is interviewing Big Phil. But yeah, I've interviewed Phil a couple times, most notably at E3, where we did it with dearly departed.
He's not dead.
Yeah, he is. In my heart, he is. Mike Mahadi, which was, around the the X launch for One X. But Phil is exactly how he portrays himself to be on the internet. He clearly cares. He is very passionate about games, and he's one of the few executives in the gaming industry that's very candid about the things that he feels, because he owns a lot of the things that he feels and makes it very clear. And also I think that he is probably because he's incredibly well trained in PR, so he knows the boundaries and he knows how to speak like a human within those boundaries. You know?
Yeah, I think that's something that being media trained is a skill. And let's not dwell on this too long because it's very inside baseball. But that's kind of why a lot of execs do have that air of being quite separated, because they know that everything that they say is going to be a headline. And I think, honestly, two of the best kind of spokespeople in that they are both honest, but also keep within their boundaries and don't unnecessarily cause headlines or stories or whatever. I think Big Phil, obviously, but I also think Pete Hines is very good at being a human face to a giant multi-billion-dollar corporation.
Yeah.
But we're getting in the weeds. Phil said some really, really interesting things, answered some really big questions. So first up, let's see what he had to say when you asked him about expanding into the Japanese and Asian markets, because this has been on everyone's minds recently.
I mean, you mentioned new opportunities before and your first party. There was a report recently from Bloomberg which said that several Japan-based devs have been approached about acquisition. Is there any truth to that?
I don't think so. We're usually not out there. I say I don't think so. I mean, I'm not in every meeting that every team has, but I'll say not from me. It's most of the opportunities that we've had to date have been a long-lasting relationship. And so, I don't think we're out there with, our business card, throwing them out on the corner, trying to find people. I've talked about my affinity for Japanese studios and thinking back in the day when we had more games that were created in Japan as part of our first party. I'm excited, when the deal closes to get to spend more time with Tango and the work that they're doing. So it's an area that I'm interested in, but no, I don't think I think that's not accurate.
Okay, that's good to know. How, going off of that, sticking with Japan a bit, or just the region, how valuable is the Asian market to you? And what does Xbox look like there? Do you see any value there, if any?
Absolutely, yeah. And I'm glad you say, the Asian market. And when I talk about the Asian market from a gaming standpoint, the major markets in Asia are actually very, very different from one another. If you look at the Japanese market, it's very different than the Korean market, very different from the Chinese market and the Southeast Asian market. In the case of Korea, we've launched xCloud there, and a majority of the people that are part of Game Pass right now are actually xCloud members in Korea. They're not people who are playing on PC or playing on console. They're actually members of Game Pass through console. So that's through the cloud. And I think that's an interesting inroad in certain markets. Same thing with our PC focus and Game Pass on PC and our first party games that are there. I also have an affinity for all the amazing creators that are in Japan, and I spend a lot of time there, and I want to make sure those creators see Xbox as a great place for their games. And when I think about things like Kingdom Hearts and Yakuza and other games that we've been able to see come to the platform this generation. So it's both a third-party focus and a first-party focus. And the different Asian markets are different, and we will approach them differently. But absolutely, they are important. I will say they're not, I don't think I'm going to go into Japan and outsell the Japanese console makers with Xbox. I would hope to, I would like to, but it's not in the plan that I've written down. But we're going to work really hard to have the best generation that we've ever had in Japan, and the same thing in Korea and China. And I feel good about our opportunity there. And especially when I think about fans of our platform outside of those markets who want to play games that come from those countries, that's a commitment I want to make as well.
So the big takeaway is I asked him about the Bloomberg report, which very directly said that Xbox was looking to purchase a studio, maybe multiple studios in Japan, and he indicated that wasn't the case. Now, we can only take him at face value and believe what he's saying there for now. But these businesses, I wouldn't be surprised if it is true that they are having discussions with Japanese developers. But as it stands, it doesn't seem like they are doing that actively. Phil said that they're not out there throwing their business cards around trying to get acquisitions. But that's not to say they have no presence in Japan. Obviously, they now own Tango as part of Bethesda, so that is a technically Japanese studio. And the thing that he emphasized was the Japanese stuff that they do is based on existing powerful relationships. So they're not buying a Japanese studio, but they're not abandoning Japan. Jordan, what did you make, as someone who loves Xbox and is paying attention to him, what did you make about the kind of response to the Asian market and Japan?
I would say I love the fact that he refers to it as the Asian market instead of the Japanese market. So many people just kind of gloss over Korea and China and Taiwan, and there are gaming markets in those spaces, but they usually don't get as many headlines. And so it'll be interesting to see exactly how much Xbox manages to break into that market with this generation. Sony and Nintendo have just been dominating that over the Xbox One's life cycle. Really just every Xbox life cycle. And we've seen a few Asian market games now make the crossover in recent years. Like Xbox helped bring Phantasy Star Online 2 to the West over on Xbox. We have Yakuza 7. There's Bright Memory, which is releasing for Series X, Series S. So like we see a few games like here or there, like Xbox paying like more attention to the Asian markets with like those 3 games than I think they've had in like the past 7 years. But it's like you said, it's something that we're gonna have to probably just watch and see, because it's one thing saying like, oh, we want to get into these markets, and a completely other thing actually getting into those markets and getting devs who probably have been playing mostly on Nintendo and PlayStation consoles for the past few years being like, hey, Xbox is pretty cool and we want you to be a part of this. Here are some like dev kits. Could you make your game for Xbox as well? Like we just have to see how that's gonna play out.
Yeah, and I think as well, like over the past few years, we've definitely seen. I remember seeing Kingdom Hearts 3 at the Xbox. Well, maybe a bad comparison because that year, because Kingdom Hearts 3 was on every bugger stage. But seeing Kingdom Hearts 3 at a Microsoft E3 press conference was huge, and like. You can see, I mean, already, you know, scale-bound RIP, but you can see the inroads that they are trying to make in getting developers solely to make, Japanese developers solely to make games for Xbox platforms. And it's, and like, they talked about, Big Phil talked about the relationship with Square Enix, and I am interested to see where that goes in particular. But also, I mean, especially given a new Final Fantasy seemingly having some kind of Sony exclusivity. But I'm interested to see how that goes, and like,
yeah,
I think the S as well, the Series S might be a really like a killer app console.
When the Xbox One launched, it was all entertainment focused. It was this giant chunky console that takes up a lot of space.
Well, I was just thinking that our tagline for the Xbox One when we launched it was big chunky platform. I think
So the S is in that position already to be there. I think the main takeaway from that bit, the thing that he mentioned and said, that it was a real struggle to make Japanese developers think about developing for Xbox because no one owned it. If no one owns it, no one's going to think about making games for it. So that's where a lot of their outreach has gone. But now they're in a position where the S could, propagate around Japan a little better than the old big chunky console. So the future looks bright for Japan and Asia as a whole. Like xCloud's doing great in Asian markets, and Game Pass is doing great in the Asian market. So fingers crossed.
Yeah. All right, let's move on then to Halo. So I got my Series X yesterday on launch day. We're filming this on Wednesday. And it is still kind of awkward to see Master Chief donning the console packaging. It's awkward. And like you have to feel for the team over at 343 because like they have all these third-party marketing stuff going through. And they're all these campaigns are going live, and the game is nowhere to be seen. And so I understand that you asked Phil about Halo, the state of Halo.
Yeah, so I asked him. My big question was, what does he think that Halo has still got it? Is it still powerful? Is it still? Because I remember like Halo in the Xbox 360 days was like record breaking, setting big numbers, and it was like a multimedia event when Halo came out. Times Square kind of like gathering style things where mainstream media was like, "There's a new Halo," and my thinking was like, does he still think that he's still got that kind of juice? And here's what he said.
I definitely think it has the potential for that power. I think there's something iconic about Bungie's creation originally about Master Chief. I teasingly call him John Wayne in space, but like this, this iconic character, hero character that I think people are drawn to. And when I look at how well Master Chief Collection has done, say as it's gone to PC, and as 343's continue to evolve it even now for Xbox Series X and Series S, there's high level of interest. With high level of interest comes a lot of pressure on the team, comes a lot of emotion when we don't hit a date that we wanted to hit. I take all of that emotion and feel that I have as a positive sign for the franchise. That said, there are a lot more big franchises now in gaming than there were back when Halo 1, 2, and 3 launched. And I think that's a good thing for our industry and a good thing for Xbox. The fact that we can have a diversity of franchises and what those mean. So I don't think a platform has to define, we get the, who's your iconic character on a platform? I think you are the iconic character on our platform. It's not any one of our individual franchises. And I think that's a strength. But I have a ton of belief in Halo and 343 and where we're going. And I've played quite a bit of Infinite, and I'm looking forward to other people getting to play.
When you said you are the iconic mascot for iPhone, I thought you were talking to me, and I got very confused there. Okay. It is me. Awesome. Sweet.
If Phil's confident that like the team is creating the game that they want to make, then I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that he knows what he's doing and that 343 Studios knows what they're doing. It'll be interesting to see exactly how Halo Infinite is received when it does come out. Halo 4 and 5 Guardians weren't exactly positively received at launch, though I did think it was interesting that Phil mentioned, it's like, remember, Halo 3 ODST and Halo Reach weren't super positively received at launch either, and they became more popular over time. And I'm like, that's a good point. So I think if they stick to their vision and Microsoft allows them the room to stick to their vision, it could be really interesting to see what they do with Master Chief in Halo. I was about to say Halo 5. What they do with Master Chief in Halo Infinite.
So it's not just Halo that you talk to him about, because obviously I think the main kind of concern from a lot of people going into the launch of the Series X and the S is, without Halo, does the XS have a killer app, quote unquote? There's a lot been made about Game Pass. Understandably, it's the best deal in gaming. We say this every week. But it doesn't have a Demon's Souls. It doesn't have a Spider-Man Miles Morales. It doesn't have a Sackboy's Big Adventure. I don't know. Like, it seems right now like the killer app for Xbox as it stands right now is like Assassin's Creed Valhalla. They've spent all that money on marketing the crap out of that game. It will sell loads. It looks great on Series X. Tam, you posed this to Phil.
He very expertly kind of explained his reasoning, which kind of dodges the question and the issue, but also is very fair, and I think an accurate representation of, one, Xbox leaning into the things that they're doing well, and two, the business strategy that they're going for. So his kind of point was like, killer apps and big deal, games that show off the console are something that people like you and I are concerned with, and people that are watching this video, like, they want to see a big thing. But for many other people, something like Game Pass is equally powerful for them. They know that they can buy a console, spend one fee, and then they're good with a bunch of games for that month, maybe even the year. So that was his major thing, and he kind of said that having that launch lineup that is a bunch of games, 100 games, is as valuable to him as having a Halo. Obviously, he admitted that he wanted a Halo, and it was, to him, an emotional decision. He described it as, more than a business one, because he loves Halo, which is like great. But then he also pointed out there are a bunch of games that are available there. Perhaps not Microsoft Studio games, but there are games like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Watch Dogs Legion, Yakuza, which I made pains to point out is the killer app, and is on Lucy's TV right now. And
it's
Tetris
still
Effect.
installing.
I can feel Michael getting excited just from us mentioning it.
And Tetris Effect is another one which I've been playing on Xbox, and it's fantastic. Like, Tetris Effect, great game. But yeah, he was like confident in that. He said that they're still going to be sold out of consoles come time, and also that the first party games are going to come out at a time where it's more imperative to have them, when the battle for mindshare is kind of uphill. It feels a little more uphill because, one, there's competitors, and two, the early adopters have started to drop off. Anyone who's interested in it will have already bought it. They don't care whether there is a killer app or not. So when other people start thinking about whether they want an Xbox or they want a PS5, that's when the Fables are going to pop. That's when the Halo's going to be there. That's when the other games that are first party are going to be there. So I think he understands that it is missing something, but I don't think he's worried about it.
But speaking of a killer app, is that a good segue? I can't even tell anymore. I'm very tired. But So what I love most about this interview is that, like, obviously you prepared questions, and when you messaged me after you'd finished the interview and you said Phil spoke about Elden Ring, I assumed that you had just, like, purposely put an Elden Ring question in because obviously that's where it debuted at E3.
No.
Look at this.
It's not always been easy being part of Team Xbox sitting in Japan. It hasn't been over the last decade or so, but I feel good about the progress we're making, and I think it shows. You look at our last E3 shows, Miyazaki's showing his games on our stage, and somebody who's just an incredible creator that works with Sega, that work with Capcom, work with Bandai Namco, that we've had work with Square. It's been really good and really gratifying to see the progress.
How much of Elden Ring have you seen? Can you tell me anything?
I've seen actually quite a bit. I've played quite a bit.
Man.
I can't tell you. I can't tell you much other than, as somebody who's played all of Miyazaki's games over at least the last decade, this is clearly the most ambitious game that he's done. I mean, I love his games, but like seeing some of the even gameplay mechanic stuff that he and the team are tackling this time, the setting, working with another creator in terms of story, and I love it. I love him challenging himself, expanding. He's a good friend of mine, expanding his horizons. I think it's a good thing. I know he has, when he has me play, I go over, he has to leave the room. He doesn't want to, I think that's because I'm a bad player, but he does, and then when he comes back, and then we'll have a conversation about things that I think is just, he's so passionate about what he does. It's one of the things I just love about getting to work with him on some of these games, and seeing them come to our platform.
He admits that he plays it.
He just brings it up.
Yeah, he's oh yeah, I've been playing it.
So far, we've learned the most about Elden Ring. Not from Miyazaki, not from George R.R. Martin, maybe on par with, like, Vati, but, like, Phil Spencer.
Like a bit behind the scenes, like how the sausage is made. I don't really prepare questions for interviews. I just put like topics that I want to talk about. So that in that area was just Japan/Asia, and like I went from there. And I'll put like sometimes facts that happen, and then I'll just let a conversation happen. So when he was talking about Japan, you can, in that clip, I didn't prepare the question. It just came to me, and I was like, I'm gonna say it because you can see me go, So how much do you know? Because that is me going, I'm
This
just
is
gonna
my
do
chance.
it. Yeah, this is my chance. And I wanna say that clip is entirely for the YouTube account, Daily Elden Ring Updates. I know you've been suffering, bro. I've been there with you. And this is for you. That one's for you.
I love how when he's talking about Elden Ring, you can just hear Tam in the background going,
So I'm gonna make a request. Joe Screbbles from IGN, a very good friend of ours, made a little video edit of the exact moment that Tam realizes he can ask about Elden Ring. Evan, please put the clip in here.
How much of Elden Ring have you seen? Can you tell me anything?
I've seen actually quite a bit. I've played quite a bit.
Man.
I can't tell you. I've
played quite a bit.
Okay, so those are the highlights of Tam's interview with Phil Spencer. If you want to watch the whole thing, it's like half an hour long. We like, that was the real top level stuff. Phil is very, very candid. They cover a lot of ground, a lot of subjects. So please go watch it. It's up on youtube.com/GameSpot. Written version, gamespot.com right now. But this feels like a Tam special. Because what's that on the screen behind you?
I mean, it just turned off.
It just
turned off.
Tam's like, nothing's on the screen.
Had a
It's
segue
embargoed.
lined up.
There you go. There's a new feature that I just learned the PS5 has. If it leaves it idle for too long, it just turns off.
Well, that's good. Power save it.
It's power saved. It was
Protect the
Demon
environment.
Souls. I turned around to look to make sure nothing was attacking me, but it was apparently it's just. I really hope it resumes from that moment. Otherwise,
It should
oh
do.
my
It
god.
should.
But yeah, I've been playing Demon Souls. The game is available in certain markets. I have hands in the air. Only played about an hour and a half, 2 hours, two and a half hours of it.
I'm still so jealous.
So very, very early in the experience. Obviously, have played Demon Souls before. It's the one that is least clear in my mind because I never did repeated playthroughs like Dark Souls 2, Scholar of the First Sin, and 3, and Bloodborne, Sekiro. I played those over and over again. Demon Souls, because of its availability, is one that I played once and then just was not able to come back to when my red hot fiery passion for Souls games really kicked off after Dark Souls.
There he is. He's invigorated again.
I can't believe you just admitted you played Dark Souls 2 multiple times.
I wouldn't. Yeah, well, multiple times Dark Souls and then Scholar of the First Sin, and I was like,
okay.
never again. But yeah, so it's kind of interesting that I'm trying to talk about the game without giving away my what I want to write about, because then I feel like
well,
I'm cheating.
hang on. Your original written impressions will be up by the time. This
Yeah,
is
so
up,
my original written impressions, I think, will focus. What I'm gonna say is, I feel like this game is impressive in so many ways. Like, it feels like I said this in. I can say this because I probably won't use it because it feels kind of like not redundant, but like I don't want to make it this easy. But my Final Fantasy VII review, Final Fantasy VII Remake review, I said Final Fantasy VII Remake is remade in the way that your mind remembers it. And it is remade in, it evokes the feelings that you had back then. And I feel like Bluepoint has done very similar here, but the level of detail is so different that it's gone into things that, you know, you thought you knew about the game and just surfaced them in a way that is more clear now. Like, the feeling of being in the Nexus. The reason I've only played an hour is because I stood around in a Nexus for half an hour just looking at things. It's ridiculous. Like, it's unbelievable. Like, I stood in the pool of water above the well thing and the glyphs on it. Like, I don't want to say what it is because it's kind of a spoiler. But like, and I stared at it for ages and like looked around, and that area, I can say this is, that area is it's basically a prison for souls. Like, it's the Nexus, it traps you, you're kind of stuck there, you're always pulled back to it. This is the first time I went in there and I was like, this isn't just a prison, this is an abandoned holy place. Like, this is a place of worship. And it's because the way they light it, the way the ambience works in it, the music that they've changed, like you can hear more like hymns being sung, and just the general feel is different. It just immediately, when I stood up in there, I was like, this feels different, but it's not different. Like, they've just taken all the minute details and really polished them and made sure that they're super visible to the player now. And it's a lot of that. Things like, you know, using audio to really make sure the world is talking back to you.
So I was gonna ask you about the audio because just before we started shooting, you kind of said that like you were picking up on things just because you could hear them, which I guess, you know, I'm a person who before this gen, everything would come through my soundbar, or you know, even worse, it would come through my terrible TV speakers. I would never be the type of person to wear a headset, and then hearing you talk about how
I feel
it's like so fundamental to you playing Demon Souls, I am very excited.
Yeah, so I would highly recommend using a pair of headphones. A good one if you can find it. You know, the PS5
You know how hard that is for me, Tam? You know how hard that is for me?
I know. But like, if you can, use headphones. There is an option called midnight mode in audio, which I'm not sure what it is yet. I think it might just be like quietening it down. Absolutely salivating over Demon Souls, lad. But like, I think it's just like quietening it down so it's less bassy. But like, I have not tried it. That's just my guess. But like, audio is super important to this game. Like, the one description I'll give of how well it's implemented is fairly early. It won't be a spoiler. And when you spawn into like the first area, 1-1 Boletarian Palace, whatever it may be, there's parts of it I remember, and I only remembered that there's the carcass of a horse nearby because I heard flies buzzing to my right hand side, and when I looked over, I could see the flies gathered around the horse, and then there's crows that are pecking at the horse's carcass, and as you approach, they kind of like fly away, and one just kind of, I heard its wings kind of just flap by. And that's just one small way, the way it uses it. In the first tutorial area, which is new for this version of the game, created by Bluepoint, there's like a metal lighting fixture, and you can hear it creaking. Like, you can hear the metal rending as it moves back and forth. It's not just like a eat. It's like a a bending of the metal as it swings.
You make it sound like a horror game.
That's the thing. This is a horror game. This is what is. It makes me feel. Imagine being able to capture the feeling of playing a Souls game for the first time ever. Not just.
That is terrifying.
Not a Dark Souls game. Not a From Software game. The first time this genre came to existence. Imagine having the complete unfamiliarity again. Like we don't have that. I'm gonna steal from my review again. And
How can you steal from something you haven't written
No,
yet?
still, I don't. It's because it's not a fully formed thought. But like, this is how I want to open it. But like, this is again, sausage being made. Like, the analogy I want to make is, video games are so unique that it's the only medium where you can let the genie out the bottle, put it back in, and then do it again. Like, video games allow you to capture lightning in a bottle twice, and that's what this game does. Like, no other medium allows you to experience something completely fresh for the second time. You can't forget a movie and relive it, but games allow us to take a game, reinvent it, and make it more potent, and that's what this is. Like, I feel like I'm playing the Souls genre for the first time, and that's unbelievable.
I want to play this so bad.
So excited.
This is based on 2 hours. It might completely the bed and turn into N64 graphics halfway through because they run out of money. Who knows? But what I've played so far, like, I'm excited, and like I am, again, cards on the table. I'm predisposed to loving these games. I think I've made that clear that I am a huge From Software fan. But I will say I'm good at my job. I'm critical of things when they need to be critical. I'm not a raging fanboy. If they gave us a turd, I'd say it was a turd. This is so far, I am loving it.
I'm very, very excited. Like, we spoke to Bluepoint last year to do an episode of Audio Logs on how they remade Shadow of the Colossus twice. They've remade it more than once. But like, just seeing what they were doing on PlayStation 4 and the tricks and whatever they were using and how they were using the Bluepoint engine, I am very, very excited to see what they're doing with Demon Souls. I have it downloaded and I'm just desperately waiting for my work day to end so I can play it. But we've been going for a while, so we're going to wrap it up here. It's launch week, so Godspeed to your FedEx deliveries and your postal service deliveries. I hope they all arrive. We've got a lot of stuff up about the new consoles. We have Spider-Man, we've got graphics comparisons coming out the wazoo. We've got Assassin's Creed, we've got Spider-Man. We'll have stuff on Demon Souls. Jordan, you're working on way more Assassin's Creed stuff because that game is gonna be huge. It's a great game. Your review went up very quickly.
Yep. Oh god, that was a long
game
to play in a week.
I know, but
but I liked it. It's good. Please read all the stuff that we write about it and all the videos. Watch those too.
So we have other stuff as well. Like, we have a feature about if the Pulse headset is worth getting, and from the sounds of it now with Demon Souls, you definitely want something to carry that beautiful 3D audio. The DualSense controller's best features. We have a Ghost of Tsushima graphics comparison. We've got load time comparisons between the Series X and the PS5. Like, basically everything you want to know about the new consoles, we've got it. Generation Next isn't going anywhere. We will be back again next week. I guess once things have settled down a little bit, everyone is still very excited about consoles arriving and getting them all set up. So we'll see you next week. Have a great weekend. Bye. Keep gaming.
What was that?
If you've ever seen Strictly Come Dancing in the UK, at the end they always go, keep dancing. And I tried it because I started with Bake Off. I thought I'd end with Strictly.
You should have ended with Blind Date.
Lucy, you have to re-record the intro.
Ta-ra for now.